Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us in another applied precognition training practice class. I consider these to be online workshops, tended to be informal. These are sponsored by APPI, the App Institute, and the focus today will be on wise wagering. Now here's what we're going to do. Always this learn by doing is key, though we won't be able to do that in terms of you doing it, in terms of wagering, but I may be able to put in a wager, and I hope to explain to you the whole concept of how to do it for both sports and financials. So what we're going to do first is actually do a prediction that, at least in our app world, is what leads to the wagering. And in these classes, we've decided to also do a rather interesting and I think pretty unique experiment, which is I'm always doing predictions which are a month or more into the future. So we'll be doing one ARV session, one judging session. I really hope that you'll be able to send me some of your transcripts so we can discuss it. That's a big part of the learn by doing. And then this feedback will be coming in the future. That date turns out not to be quite right. It'll be longer, but feedback is coming, as I say, more than a month into the future. And then the bottom line of what I'm going to be discussing with you is wager wisely, get rich slowly. So we'll be talking about that in the context of our precognition. Okay, so let's get into what this prediction is all about and how we do it in the associative remote viewing approach that we take in app. It all begins with a simple, really, remote viewing cue, which is describe and sketch your, and then we use a 6-digit coordinate, feedback target. So that's your coordinate. Here's the cue. Binary ARV, as you see, I'm reviewing this relatively quickly because I've given other classes on this, which if you don't understand too much about this, you can go back and review, or you can ask a question right now. Now, binary ARV has two sides. The objective is to predict the winning side. We focus on binary ARV most of the time these days. And binary means there are two choices. Like if you're doing financials, you'd be interested in price changes going up or down and up. Now these sides are randomly chosen with respect to up, down, or down, up. So side one could be up or it could be down. Or in sports, we might want to know, is Team A going to win or Team B going to win? And again, these could be in either order. Or we do an over-under wager on the total points in a given game, say. Or we might want to have the over-underdog wager where they give you points. You know, you have to give up some points to go for the favorite team. Lots of different ways of wagering. Now, all of these are equivalent to yes-no questions. And yes-no are nice because they open up, in some ways, a broader range. You could always put them in this format, but sometimes it's easier. In fact, we started with, will Hillary Clinton be the next president of the United States? That's an easy yes-no question. but they're all equivalent. Side one could be yes or no, and then the other, of course, would be side two. Now, I told you about the month-long predictions, but the ones we're doing are not even odd predictions. Now, this is where we are now. And the even odds are important from the perspective of wagering, as well as keeping statistics, knowing how well you're doing. It turns out there are many implications in not doing the even odds thing. Most of the time, our predictions are even odd predictions, 50-50 predictions. But here they're not. Will Hillary Clinton win the next U.S. presidential election? That was done in March of last year, and the odds that she would win were very high. In other words, the main thing was a yes would have been what most people would have predicted at about a 4-to-1 level. It turns out we predicted no, and we got a hit on that one. All the rest of these are open. About the Dow Jones Industrial Average, people, it looked like it was moving up. Someone said, you think it's going to be over 21,000? I had my own personal opinion about that, but the way we do things, as you'll see, everything is totally blind, and we got to know. Will Trump be president a year from now? Will either Kentucky or UCLA be winners? So here's what we're doing. Will the Dow Jones be over 20,000, February 27th? Those are the kind of questions we're asking. Today, and this will be the one we'll be doing, will Roger Federer win the ATP, American Tennis something or other, French Open? And they call it the Gentleman's Final. And you can see that Federer down here, the odds of him winning, the 2,000 here plus 2,000 means if I put up $100, I will get my $100 back plus 2,000. If I put 10 down, I will get my 10 back plus 200. He is pretty much a long shot. But why not do that? If it turns out we get a yes, then we can talk about what would be a wise wager, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Now, again, in a summary fashion, though really capturing the essence of the remote viewing part of the ARV is begins with, in the next few slides, I think summarize it very nicely, intention. The cue that we use, which you saw before, is here. Describe and sketch your feedback target for that particular coordinate. And that is your intention, to create, as you're going into this, a transcript for your coordinate that is a good match to the feedback target for that coordinate. I've been doing this for a long time, and it no longer amazes me because I just see it so often in so many people. Plus, I saw it in myself, that to really get this deep in the gut, not just intellectually, to get it deep in the gut is one of the most important things we need to do. Cool down is all part of that. Getting the fact that precognition begins with the feedback session. We start in time with the remote viewing session. Yeah, we're going to do some judging. We'll talk about that later. But all of that, in fact, needs to be set aside so that you describe and sketch your feedback target. It begins here. You know the truth in the future. The fact that we can get such good matches shows that you are somehow connecting with the information from your feedback target. And when we do feedback, you encourage that. You're doing this not just for this one session, over and over, and you tend to improve this kind of entanglement. you're going to see lots of things between the remote viewing session and the feedback session. None of that matters. All that matters is your target is the feedback photo site, the target that you see, interact with during your feedback session. And strong interactions with the target help because it like lights it up, and that's how you find it. We use photo sites. Photo sites are photos, but with your intention to describe your target, you're including with the photo site sounds and smells, all the things your normal senses can pick up, because that's how the communication channel from what I call the subconscious works. It uses all of your physical senses to get your intention at the conscious mind level. I mean, it's the conscious mind that reports. You're witnessing information from your subconscious, but it gets up to your conscious mind. And the feedback session is when you light all that up and make that happen. Now, in addition to intention, expectation, getting into a mode when you expect this to happen, when you take it for granted. This expectation is strongly associated with being confident. In fact, I just had somebody today write a note. You know, everybody who does this as they're doing it, there are a lot of places to write notes, really, to themselves and to me. They indicated that it's a bit harder after you've had a miss. And yes, that's the challenge. You know, we're not 100% yet, but getting to the point where you expect to get better and better. You expect to get a good match, and you know it's not going to be every time, but you increase your expectation because you know you're learning for the long term. Getting a hold of that attitude and making it personal. You know, I'm putting out these words in terms of my perspective. That doesn't mean a darn thing. What's your perspective? How do you get to this confident place where you do expect to have good matches with your transcript and the feedback target? And then at feedback time, we're always working to improve ourselves. There's always some aspects of your remote viewing, of your precognition, that you can improve. And I believe that's the appropriate mindset. It also keeps it interesting. Hey, I'm working on this now. The other part of this, which really is so clear as being important, is attention. This is the conclusion that Joe McMonagle and Ed May were. These are two guys that have been in this field forever. Joe is probably the best remote viewer, I would say certainly public remote viewer in the world now. And Ed May is one of the scientists that's been around for a very, very long time. It goes back, you know, to Stargate, the SRI days, but has stayed with it. A lot of the other scientists have moved on. What is clear, at least to those of us on our long-established team, is that intention, attention, and expectation, intention, attention, and expectation play a very important role in the success of both application and research of remote viewing. You know, that's just what we're doing, application. Now, the intention is to your own consciousness, to your own mind. What's coming up? What's the process? You're really in all of this, and this is one of the beautiful parts about being involved in precognition, is you're learning about yourself. You're paying attention to your conscious mind. The one thing I think we all will agree on is that the information from the, what I call the submerged consciousness, okay, the subconscious mind is the language that I like to use, but it's coming from something that is not with your conscious mind right now. That's why I use the word submerged. Okay, it's I like to call it the sub. Other people might call it a higher self, a guide. The thing we have to remember is it's coming from something kind of bigger than our conscious mind right now, bigger than the way we usually interact with the physical world. It's wonderful. It's mysterious. Um, but I'm going to use the word subconscious mind, and it's there where all the information is contained. Ingo Swann, I should have put this on the list, used to call it the matrix. It's got lots of different words that you might use, but notice they all go into your conscious mind. And paying attention to that, oh, that's interesting that that came up, or gee, why did I have that thought, or and your actions, why am I doing this? I'm conscious of doing something, even though, say, I know it's not correct. Become aware of that, because you can become aware of noise issues, for example. Okay, and then I want to discuss the analysis judging a little bit and summarize that, because when it comes down to it, remote viewing is what gives you information about a future target, but the judging phase is where you make the specific prediction. So here is where the yes-no question gets an answer as a prediction. We don't yet know the outcome because it comes before the outcome. Guess what? So we can wager. And, wager is really a very general word. In the old days, they used to wager with the remote viewing, if you will, because what they were wagering were assets. They would send satellites to certain places to look. They'd put human resources in given places based on remote viewing projects. They put a lot of time and attention in it to see if it might be true. I mean, that's wagering valuable resources. Okay, now, we have two sides, and that makes sense then, two choices, that we'd have two possible targets. So I want to do the analysis judging, which gives us a prediction of what we're going to see at feedback time. And with that prediction comes the yes or no prediction for the wager. So in the Winning Entanglements program, and different ARV approaches do things somewhat differently, but they really all amount to this. In we, as I've said, there are two sides. Let's take this example. In a yes-no example, side one could be either yes or no. Let's take the example where side one has been assigned yes, because in we assign the sides at the beginning. So side one is a yes. Now this is all blind to everybody involved, but side one in this example is yes. We have one remote viewing session. We have one coordinate. So for this side, there's going to be one coordinate. That's going to lead us to one transcript. Side one is yes. Now there are two possible photosite targets. Remember, the photosite is you send your consciousness to that photosite, and you describe and sketch the feedback target. So you want to describe and sketch what you can, in fact, let's say, well, verify. Okay, and you might have to use a little inference, but you want to really be able to verify it from the photo. Okay, because that's what your feedback target is. Now here we are. If we're now making the connection from the prediction and the matching of the transcripts, So you're now going to, as a judge, match the transcripts. And if the actual outcome of the target were yes, okay, if the actual outcome, wait, let me say that again. If at feedback time, you're going to see one of these two pictures. You will see what we call photosite A, and the other one, guess what? It's going to be photosite B. If the correct outcome is yes. Remember, the actual outcome could be yes or no. But in this example, if the actual outcome indeed is yes, you will see photosite A. Photosite A is always associated at feedback time, which is the only time you know it, with the actual outcome. So up until feedback, nobody knows. Up until the outcome, nobody knows if yes will be associated with photosite A or not. At feedback time, you know that. Similarly, if it is not the actual outcome, so in this example, if the target is no, if the answer to the question we asked is no, then you'll see the second target with this coordinate. So, you know, it's funny. I at least always find it complicated to discuss because it takes a lot of words because of the two choices and photosites and all that. But actually, it's quite simple. Once the side is chosen, if that side is the actual outcome, sometimes I use the word actualized, if that's what actually happens, if the answer to the question is yes, you'll see photosite A. If the answer to the question in this example were no, you'd see photosite B. Simple as that. Now, if side 1 happened to be no, you just change no here. Side 1 is no here. You'd only see photosite A. Again, if this was no, if this was no, but if in fact, okay, this then becomes yes. So finally, you don't have to worry about any of this stuff if when you're doing your remote viewing or feedback session. In fact, all you need to do is describe and sketch your feedback target. Before we go ahead and actually do this, I came across this quote. I've already used it once, but I think it's so valuable I want to use it again. And that's because in associative remote viewing, and especially in wagering, you might have the feeling that if you win, someone else is going to be a loser, and in some ways it might stop you from wagering in a wise fashion. It might stop you from even doing good predictions if in the back of your mind you think you're hurting someone. And I think with respect to ARV and precognition and wagering, I think it's really very important to take in what this says. Okay, but what if I want and what you want are in conflict? If I want rain and you just cut your alfalfa, how does that work? So I think you understand what the analogy here, right? You certainly want to win, but you don't want to hurt anybody else. If you will focus upon the essence of what you want, which in this example might be a magnificent crop, and the other will focus upon the essence of what they want, which is a successful alfalfa harvest, or whatever, And if either one of you doesn't get too involved in the details of how you think you want your desire to play out, then both of you can be satisfied. Both of you can be satisfied. The universe has the facility to orchestrate circumstances and events to accommodate everyone. Now, the key here, in my opinion, is the essence and then the trust that the universe will orchestrate this for you. But the essence isn't that it's going to rain today. You know, the essence is that you want a great crop. The essence is, you know, let's look a little bit for the longer term and not just in our context here, say just one way. Okay. I paused because I was looking at the chat box. Now, we're now beginning to move into doing our prediction. And some newbies might want to use a sheet similar to this. You could actually copy it from the screen or email me and I'll show you where to get it, or even make your own. This is the kind of sheet that even people who have been doing this for a while might use, but many just use a blank sheet of paper. And it has the essence of what a transcript is for ARV. And you can start, and hopefully you get some pencil and pen now, and you can put your name up here, the date, and the time. And we don't have a coordinate yet. I'm going to show you how to get that. I don't even know what it is, frankly. So all of this is, as I indicated, blind. We have this concept of a beacon that I've talked about elsewhere. Some people might use, for a month-long one, you probably don't want to use food, but you might use some object, a coin, and associate it right now with this transcript that you're going to be putting together, knowing that at feedback time, you're going to be holding that same object, and it helps light up your remote viewing session going to this beacon. Now, the coordinate itself is the classical beacon, and I always recommend saying it out loud after we do our cool down. See, this line here is you're still kind of in an intellectual mode. We'll be doing the quieting, and then we'll get into the actual, you'll get into the actual transcript. And you'll write down your coordinate and do, a lot of people, you don't have to do this, but a lot of people do a spontaneous doodle-like thing, which is something between an ideogram and a pictogram. It might have structure-like shapes, and you really go by the feeling and your intuition now. And that starts things off. And then usually big picture things come in, gestalts, the kinds of things which you notice when you first look at the picture. And you'll get sketches, which are really important because the images that come in tend not to be from the analytical side of your brain. And that's one of the things you learn, which is so interesting as you do this more and more, to pick up the differences in feelings from something which comes from the analytical side of your brain, from sort of your day-to-day intellect and you know, the day-to-day ego, all of that. When you learn that distinction, when you think that you have an analytical overlay, it's coming from your intellect, you put it on the right here, analytical overlay, AOL. It serves a really important purpose because it gets rid of it. It opens you up to get another element of information, another precept to come up from your subconscious. So the AOLs go here, and the words are the other thing which tend to come up with sketches. Most people get both. Some actually get one or the other almost exclusively, and there have been terrific transcripts and hits, of course, with both of these. But you can get words like this: textures, colors, smells, taste, dimensions, sounds, dynamics. And I want to go into a little bit more detail about that because first we are going to do a quieting, but wait, there's another very important one here. There it is. This is put together by Daz Smith, a long-term remote viewer. And it's just interesting to spend a little time with this because it shows you the level of the kind of words that you can expect to come up from your subconscious. If you were to do a really, really long session, you might get high-level words, like Moulin Rouge, a particular place, White House, as opposed to building, as opposed to big, curved, as opposed to getting colors like white, where you kind of describe what might be a picture of the White House, but you describe it in its more elemental words. That's what almost always comes up from the subconscious. But again, everybody is different, and you need to learn about yourself. So this is another kind of worthwhile, I think, thing. And hopefully you're looking at the kind of words you've got here. I'm just not going to read them all. But it is interesting to note that, let's say you got the color red and you got round in terms of a dimension. You might leap to ball, red ball, but that might have really come from your analytical mind. That might be an example of an AOL, because it could also be, imagine if a little bit later you came up with a taste. Oh, it tastes fresh, it tastes sweet. Smells fresh or sweet. You know what? It might have actually been a tomato. But you might not get these other words. So that hopefully helps explain analytical overlay and the level of stuff which you should be looking for when you do your remote viewing session, which we're moving up to here, believe it or not. Now the cool down, which we'll be doing shortly, is really very important. It's a kind of a mental discipline. So it is mental, but it's mental in the sense that you're sending your attention to empty your mind so that you can open it up to get clear information from the subconscious. And you're paying attention to this, and you'll pay attention to other stuff that'll come up, and then you just let it leave you. It's really a kind of meditation. Okay, so you might be asking, how do I actually do this? And let's now do it. The way this all starts is the program is online. It begins with email, and everything is saved on our server. So comments that you put in, pictures, how well you do, so that you can later get graphs and tables with summaries of how you did and your comments that you did in time, which means over time, over weeks, months, you have all this history that you can look at as a learning tool. Okay, so here is tasking. Now, involved with every prediction, there is a tasker. The tasker is an app usually referred to as the group manager. So the group manager sets a task for the whole group. I played that role here and did the task for the group we are, which is a webinar workshop member. Everybody in the group, so you would normally get this, but I'm now going to play the role that each of you could do. Also show how easy it is, and if some of you are not in groups, hopefully you will. But here's the event, which we discussed earlier. Will Roger Federer win the ATP French Open? And it's around June 11th. Well, that's the date it's scheduled now, but it might rain. It turns out the way they word it is it's around June 11th, scheduled for. Okay, click here. What could be simpler to get your coordinates? And then a page like this comes up. Webinar workshop is highlighted. I am going to use my name, my email address, so you of course would all put in yours. And today we're only going to do one coordinate. Two coordinates are exactly the same, except they'll each be on the opposite side. So if you were to do two coordinate, one would be for yes, one would be for no. One side for yes, one side for no. You wouldn't know which, but this gives you the opportunity to get confirmation. For now, don't get into that. Let's just do one coordinate. Then you click here. What could be simpler? And up comes this page. So now all of us, including me, for the first time, know what that coordinate is. So you can put that on the top middle of your sheet of paper. And even now, you might want to say it out loud. Saying it out loud, notice it vibrates through your body. It's not like you're memorizing it. And in fact, it's like you're just telling yourself that this is the same thing I'm going to do at feedback time. I'm going to say it out loud there as well. And so it acts as this beacon concept. It acts as lighting it up, making it easier for you to go to your feedback session and then the feedback target. So the next step is going to be to do the remote viewing session. And then once we have that, you need to bring it up to your, get it on your computer, and then you hit the browse button, and then you find it on your computer in a way most everybody's familiar with now. If anybody has a problem with it, email, we can help them out. But almost everybody uses smartphones now, or still a few use scanners to get it to their computer, and then you upload it to the server. And then once that's done, we'll hit the submit button, and then you go into the judging where you make the prediction. Okay, so you should all have your coordinate. We've talked about the cue. What I'm going to do is, and some of you can turn off my and do this on your own, but for your timing, we're about 10, 12 minutes away from finishing and going into the judging. So you can go it on your own, or some of you may want to stay, and I will do a cool down, take just a few minutes, and then 7 minutes for you to do your RV session. And I'll end the cool down that I do by saying 4, 3, 2, 1, describe, and then we'll go silent for, I'll give you a 1 minute warning. Again, the cool down purpose of it is to get rid of all the day-to-day stuff, open up a communication channel with your subconscious. Okay, so get settled in your seat now. Get yourself comfortable. Take a deep breath. Focusing on your breathing is just such a good way to drop the day-to-day stuff. Close your eyes. I'm breathing in. Breathe out. I'm focusing on the air now. The oxygen coming into my lungs. Breathing in. Breathing out. That oxygen goes to my heart. Feeds my nervous system. All the cells in my body are getting healthy. Focusing on my inner self. The deeper me. A me that is connected to the future. I'm expecting a good transcript for coordinate 222330. I'm moving my consciousness moving my consciousness to my feedback session and to my target. I can feel information coming into me from the target. 4, 3, 2, 1. Describe. Okay, you have a minute to go. Might go down and get another precept, something from your sub. Okay. Why don't you now stretch again a little bit and come on back to your normal awake state. I hope you enjoyed that. Remote viewing really should be a joy. Getting in touch with your deeper self and being quiet. A lot of people actually never wager. They actually do this for the pleasure of doing it. Okay. Terry, I saw your question. I don't quite understand it. It may not be relevant still. If it is, I'm looking at the chat box now, or it's not your mic. Okay. Okay, so we'll go ahead. Okay, very good. Now the next step is analysis and judging. And now we need to come up with the yes, no. And the way we do that is coming up with matching transcripts to two possible targets, as I showed you before. One which is going to be associated with what actually happens, and the other with what doesn't happen. So that means we go here. Now each of you has a transcript in front of you, and normally you would then get it onto your computer and upload it. What I am going to do is put in a dummy transcript and do the equivalent. And this transcript, including my dummy, is now saved on the server. And so now that this is filled in, so you would do the same thing, click submit, and notice this coordinate is for me. Each of you in being in a group, when you do it on your own, would have your own unique coordinate and your own unique pair of potential targets, which are going to come up. For now, we've all shared this coordinate, and so we're all getting the same target, which is fine. We do that quite often. Okay, there you are. So remember, you're now in a judge mode, right? I love this picture. You're now in an intellectual mode more than anything else. There's some intuition involved because we're doing self-judging, so you remember things about your transcript, and you certainly can use all of that knowledge, and some stuff might have come in that were a bit more of a surprise that you say, hey, that came in more strongly from my subconscious. Each of these sessions, the remote viewing, the judging, the feedback sessions, and the wagering session, all have their challenges and things to learn and get your arms around. This one is, as I said, mostly intellectual, but as you're going to see, a lot of judgments involved to come up with whether or not you're going to want to wager. Now, this is photosite A, this is photosite B. Either one of those are going to be the correct good match here. Now, we ultimately need to put in a number between 0 and 7 that has to do with this TAR confidence ranking. And I'm going to show you that in a minute. A number there, and then comments about how this section went. And again, this should be, personal for you because this information would be saved. So let's take a look at the TAR confidence level. Notice it was right there, so you can always find it. And I'm going to just give a summary because I've talked a lot about this in the past, but the basic critical elements of this are down at the low numbers, okay, 0, 1, and 2, you're getting no information or maybe just what you sense is chance. You just don't feel you made good contact. A 3 says, yeah, I made contact. I think I did make some psychic contact, but there's also a lot, maybe too much of information that does not match, incorrect elements. You use the word element. I like to use the word precept. So, here you're right on the border. 4, it's good. You feel really good. You got several elements that matched, some incorrect information. Part of the judgment problems a lot of people have is knowing whether or not they should be between some of these. We use 3.5. If you put in a 3.5, you say, I am willing to wager on this. So you are saying that to yourself, you're saying that to your group manager who comes up with a group decision that, yeah, I'll be willing to wager a few bucks on this. So that's the 3.5 line. So that's a key one to remember. It says, yes, I think I feel I'm psychic enough that this is a good prediction. I'm willing to wager. But 4, you feel even stronger about it. And then a 5, you feel very strong. Here you have unambiguous, unique, matchable elements. There might still be some incorrect information. In fact, I just actually remembered Ed May once said, and I don't know how he worked this out, that about 30% of transcripts have noise in it. You might get matches, but they're really noise matches. So the fact that you get some matches on the other side doesn't mean even bleed through necessarily. It doesn't mean you're looking at the other target. It just could be chance. But the key at the level of 5 is they're minimal compared to the strong, unambiguous, unique matchables. And then 6 and 7 get into the AOLs. Sometimes, though, as AOLs, analytical overlays, which you really tend to ignore, you set them aside. When they're correct, you give even more credit to everything else. Now, not if you only have that, again, because now you're getting relatively little incorrect information and your analytical AOL matches. And then the 7 is sort of spot on. Okay, so let's do it. I am going to now leave that up. And what I would like you to do, John, I know keeping track of scores. John, you there? Okay, I'll do it. What I'd like you to do, each of you, is judge your transcript against photosite A and mark a CRA, mark that on your transcript so you know what it is. In doing the judging, I do recommend going over every element to come up with those scores. You need to go over every element and see if it matches A or matches B. I've done another whole webinar on more detailed ways of doing that. But for now, just use your best judgment, and then in the chat box, put a um, put a and then a number between 0 and 7. So your CRA, whatever you get for a match against photosite A, put that in the text. And the same thing for photosite B. And for now, I really do suggest marking up your transcript, possibly with a different color pencil, just putting check marks or A's and B's against the matches. That helps you decide what the Okay, so obviously do all of yours independently, but you can CRA, then your number there, and then I'm going to be putting these, or let's see you here.
Marty, what is in picture A?
I'm sorry, say it again.
What is the picture in picture A? What is the building?
It looks like an observation tower. It looks like an observation tower. What it really looks like, and again, you should always use your remote viewing eyes even when you're judging. It looks like structure, man-made, rectangular, red, lines. I can imagine sketching the shape. See, what's wonderful about remote viewing is naming it is a very high-level thing. Most of the information is descriptive information, either sketch or words. So, and in terms of what you compare your transcript to, it's usually that level of comparison that you should be doing. Oh, is anybody else losing my audio? I see a comment from John. Okay, I don't know what to do about that, so I'm just gonna do nothing. Sorry, John. Okay, so let me put these in here now. And after you're done, if you would like, and I would recommend, because it would be good for everybody if we just talk about this stuff, is if you put in an email, attached to an email, your transcript. So you're going to give me numbers for A and B, and I will organize them. Okay. Oh. Okay, it must be a bandwidth thing, but hopefully you understand me well enough to know at this point you're doing your judging and you're giving me your A's, CR for photosite A and a CR for photosite B. Okay, I have 4 of you. Okay, MIM, I've got an A for you, but not a B. You're in the process of finishing off the judging for B, I hope. You can take, no problem. You take as much time as you need. This step often takes time. And please do it and just do it right. And right, you should all know, so you don't feel too bad in making these judgments, is about within 1 or so. We've had different people independently judge the same targets just like this, and differences of 1 are, let's say, not uncommon. Okay, and again, remember it's important that each of you do yours independently. And then we'll talk about the group judging shortly. In fact, I think I have Dave, you can take your time. I mean, Jonathan, take your time. Dave, I'm not seeing anything from Dave, but you may not be doing one, or you'll come in later. Okay. Um, so what I'd like you to do, let me go look at my email and see if anybody sent me anything. Oh, okay, Terry, yes, I'll send you an email that'll have those sheets on it.
Okay, thanks. I'm
No,
scanning my...
Okay, you're scanning yours now. That's great. So, yeah, the class was, these always start at 9. I see, that was your question. Okay, but you found us. Okay, so, okay, there you go. So, let's now talk about a specific transcript. And he gave A 3.5, a B 4.5, or possibly a 4. I guess that was for B. But let's take a look at it and let's talk about this and at different levels. So let me bring him here. And this there. Okay. So he has multiple pages. Why don't you take us through this, your reasoning for the 3.5 and 4.25, I guess if you were thinking of 4. Okay? Ramel?
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
I preferred actually the B for the reason because there's a completely repeating texture of sharp and black and sleek, and the smell of oil. I'm not really sure if the water there is clean, so I kind of like I don't really know if it's truly an A thing because
Right.
it looks the A seems to be more industrial, but I would question that. The silvery sheen seems to me favor more of a B because of the sleekness of it, and I even sketch the kind of like the watery kind of on the left side, the dark and the thick and the somewhat foamy. I definitely would want to put that on a B. And then repeating sharp edges again. I'm not really sure if I'm tapping in on the teeth of that open crocodile thing. But then again, I label it as man-made because I felt like it was solid. And I have one of those things happen. Rough texture, I think that goes more on the B.
Yeah.
White is both ways, grouped together both ways in terms of the elements.
Just to interrupt here, some people, and I know you've done this on other transcripts, will write an A or a B, B a half. Sometimes if it's only leaning towards B more, or like with white, you might put an A or B. All
Oh
of
yeah,
this.
yeah.
So when you look, and now I'm saying this to everybody, so that when you go back and look, you can kind of do the things that Ramel is doing now verbally, which is this is for both. Oh, this one is more for B, that sort of thing. So you can actually put a B on your transcript.
Yeah. Do you want me to go on page 2
Yeah,
now?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
The threesome. I'm not really sure what the threesome is. The dark,
Right.
but all I know is like I saw it's almost like in the water when you see those dark things, the stripes.
Like this,
And
maybe.
that might be this, the fainted dark thing in there. I don't know.
Is this what you saw visually?
Visually,
And you saw
exactly.
3 of them, which is why you wrote threesome.
Correct, because I
See,
felt like there's like 3
okay.
major stripes,
I
and
mean, that
so
changes.
that might be related to the water reflection
Yeah,
thing, the thing there.
might be. Mm-hmm.
Dark. I know it's like a complex nature. It's like all that. Then the sharp angled again came in. And I know it's solid, and so I mark it
Right.
both, mostly on B. Then
Okay.
it's smooth, then white and stylized. It either more on the A, but then again, when you look at the teeth, that can be smooth as well,
Correct.
macroscopically.
And so it has a little bit of both.
Yes, and so I didn't really mark it like high,
Right.
like
See, and I'm
confidence
looking
rate.
at that too, and I see these lines, and
Hmm.
potentially it could be this.
Yes, correct.
And so I think you're judging, and I want to say more about that, of uh, a 3.5 and a 4 to 4.5 is probably about right. You didn't emphasize the metallic here and the stuff like that. That's why you went more for B, but there was certainly enough for A that you wanted to show that. You gave it a 3.5. If you'd given it a 3, but numbers like that would have been about right. So I agree with this. Now, the other point I want to make here, um, thank you, Ramel, is when you get scores like this that are close together, you don't feel as good, or let me say it this way. The data implies for most people, you need to find out about yourself. So that's why it's important to keep data. But for most people, these numbers give a higher probability of a hit if they differ by around 2 or more. Then you get a real high one. Now that doesn't mean that there is a higher probability of a hit like this, yes, but not as strong. So guess what that might entangle? I love that word. How about your wagering? If with a score like this, and you're in a position now to wager based on your own, you're doing this or you don't agree with the group or you need to make an independent decision, which I wholeheartedly encourage. Don't necessarily follow a group. I much prefer people to follow their own predictions because it gives your inner self this confidence that indeed you're going to follow up. But the question is at what level? With differences like this, I really always would suggest wager at a lower level that might be your norm. So this is where the connection with wagering comes in at one level. Without being specific on how you do it or anything yet, I will get to that. This is an opportunity for you to say, okay, yeah, I'm on side B, whatever that turns out to be, but I'm probably not going to wager a whole lot. And that would be wagering wisely. Well, and by a whole lot, I mean, I'm not even going to wager my nominal amount. and I'll be talking about that. And the nominal amount already has in it wager wisely. So, okay, so I wanted to make that point. Let me see if we have any other transcripts. Okay, Donna, good. And then Lisa, let's take a look at Donna. Okay, very good. 3.5, 2.5. Let me get those pictures up. Okay. Yeah, but I love your writing. I can read it so easily. Sometimes I judge people where that's not the case. Okay, Donna, do you want to take us through this? So this side, it's pretty clear. We can probably almost all see here. B was movable, A was hanging, rough is B. Okay, so you put B equals 0, yeah. You know, everybody does it a little different, and I know I've been refining my approach to this. For B equals 0, I just simply went to put a B there, just because, why not? And here, I put nothing. Though doing it your way, you get to count exactly how many there are. So in fact, let me do that. You had 1A, 2 A's. I see 1B, 2, oh no, I'm sorry. There's another A there, a half. Beautiful, I love it. And another A there, a half, another A there, a half. So 1, 2, 3, no, 1.5, 2, 3. So I would get 3 points for A. So this is another approach people often take. And
I gave A an extra half because my feelings when I was in the session was that it was a building or a structure. So when I look at the pictures, I see the alligator, and yeah, maybe there's a few things in there that could have matched, but really my gut when I was doing it was more towards a building, and I really never even thought about an animal or anything like that. So I gave it another half, just for what I was feeling.
Okay. Okay. In other words, now that's what you said there is very important. This was information you got during the session that you didn't write down. You had the strong feeling of a building of some sort.
Well, down on the bottom I did. I put down nighttime because it kind of felt like nighttime, but then I said like a building, a small building.
Right, you do have that. Okay.
So that feeling was strong, and I never was feeling like a life form or an animal or, you know, anything organic.
Your 0.5s are in addition to a 1. Is that how I should read this?
I'm sorry?
You have A equal 0.5 here.
Yes.
Does that mean it's actually stronger by a 0.5?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now that makes more sense. Very good. I happen to put 0.5s when it's less, and I would put 1.5.
Okay.
Just to make the counting easier. But again, this is for you because you're doing the judging. So you come up with the way that's best for you. I can't disagree with that. That's great. Again, these two are close. And the 3.5 is marginal anyway, so you would expect that you would wager less than your nominal.
Yes, absolutely.
Exactly. And see, all of that comes together during the judging, and as it should, because the judge is making the prediction based on how good the matches are. Thank you.
You're welcome, Marty.
And let me go look at another one. Let's see. Okay, Lisa, I think I should be able to make this bigger. Okay, let's look here. And what were your CRs, Lisa? I have them, but well, yeah, I guess I can get them from here. 3.5 and a 4, again, close. You can see here where I put it. You're sort of peeking ahead, but that's okay. Okay. Do you want to take us through this, Lisa? You know, again, the reasoning is worth hearing and then maybe making comments on. Electric shine.
It was really hard for me. I wasn't sure whether to go with, they were very close, and I wasn't sure whether to, the only thing that really pushed me over was the like green and the dark brown. That kind of stuff really pushed me over to the alligator.
And the round. Okay, light, electric. I mean, that goes.
Like a lot of those, like I just put a dash for the electric because I didn't even think that fit in with either one. Because if it's an observation tower, other than maybe electricity being in it, so I just didn't even mark that.
Yeah, though, interestingly enough, and again, this is why judges differ by about one. This would probably be one where I put a half. In other words, I wouldn't give it a full point. I would give it a half a point. I mean, it's certainly associated with a building and that sort of thing. Shiny.
The first page I felt it was there were A's, but it was more B's on it, and then the second page, which is what you're at now, I thought was more A, except for maybe the slow fluid movement and wavy.
Yeah. Strong, tight, cold. But it's great that you're all getting this good stuff. And then with training, now at feedback time where this all starts, you would go whichever one of these, okay? You know, I covered one with my hand, which I bet you guys didn't see. But you're only going to see one at feedback time. You go and do something very similar to this. You kind of get into the remote viewing space, and what words would you have wanted to come up? And some of them will be here already, and you would have, first you look at your transcript, you circle them, for example, and you feel real good about the matches, but then you go and you say, okay, wouldn't it have been good if I got these additional ones? And mostly never know what to do with the ones which are off. I mean, that's the biggest challenge at feedback time is what to do with the part that's off. First of all, you acknowledge you're human, and you work with your sub and say, try to minimize those and just give me the good stuff. Okay, thank you. I have no, again, interesting for these, we're getting them, everything is being close. Okay, that may be the last one. Okay, it is, and let me just see if David, Jonathan, Marty, I'm a newbie. Huh. The snake inside the mouth of the alligator. Okay, Jonathan, are you okay? Did I give you advice you need? You're comfortable? The other thing you guys should always remember is I'm always available via email. I like to answer questions and do stuff like that on email, either through your group or personally. Did I see your transcript, Jonathan? That might also. You weren't able to upload it. It doesn't look like you're one of those here. Okay, I'm assuming you can't, but hopefully you saw enough from here. Okay, let's move on now. Now, how do we in fact fill this in? Filling it in is easy, right? You just put in the numbers. But as a group manager, and I'm going to make a group prediction from this, what do I do? I just put it here on the sheet with the question. because we're going to come up with an answer. And a possible answer actually is pass. I'm looking at these numbers, and they all have a 3.5. This has got all 3.5. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. Did I get another one from you? Make sure the numbers are correct that you're seeing here for you, for one thing. But KIM must be the left, or just didn't do it. But you definitely should do both because you get information about how confident you are from it. So I don't know how confident you are. I'm going to assume that was the best one. I don't know what to do it here. So just don't know what to give it there. Now, sometimes we average these. In this case, the average of this is clearly going to be 3.5. The average is 3.5. But I don't like that. I usually like to look at the higher one. Now, this has two higher ones. But, God, anybody else want to comment on this? What would you do as a judge? You know, I'm looking at this now, and it's sort of clear that I'm somewhere between a pass and B in my mind. Anybody else want to comment on that? Ramel says pass. Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's what we're going to do. And there's nothing wrong with passing. You know, you get a pass. Now, individually, you know, Ramel even said he was going to pass with something that's close. I think he meant overall on his own. He might want to do something different, but passing is still the right thing. So that is what I'm going to do. There's one other thing. John, take in a little bit about what I said quickly about getting information that matches both transcripts, you know, which at one level would imply possible bleed through. But, okay, Terry, we'll take a look at it. We have time. A possible bleed through, but it also could just be chance. And so I think we all, including me, you know, we're all at the cutting edge here. We're working this together. Need to appreciate that not all the time when you have matches on the other side is it necessary bleed through. Bleed through implies a psychic peaking at the other target. So when you're, well, I think you all understand what that means. Because you know you've got stuff from both sides, but only one side is correct. But there's this bleed through which says you psychically peaked versus getting some which is random, just random stuff coming up for whatever reason or other. Okay, so on here, I am now, and this is the official sheet, I'm now going to write pass. So that's what we decided as a group, and there's nothing wrong with passes. Sometimes it's exactly the right thing to do, and I agree this is the right thing to do. Maybe we can put a note here, leaning, what did I do? Oh yeah, that's right, it's just here, leaning toward B. We don't even know what B is yet, but that's where we're leaning towards. Okay, so we're leaning towards photo site B. Let me save this. I don't need this anymore, though. I like to save stuff. I sometimes use it for other presentations. Put this over here. Okay, so we've done the judging. Let me now do the group judging. And this will be actually valuable because I can tell you that if we were to put these numbers a little different, let's say I had decided to go for B. If I had decided to go for B, it would probably have been with a 3.5 and a 4. Let's just say I said I looked at those higher ones and I really thought that that was the way it was leaning. In fact, I do. I think it's leaning in that direction. Then it would actually be a prediction for side B. But since we're making it a pass, I make these the same. And so the program, just as you would say, well, that's got to be a pass since it isn't going one way or another. So that's the way you can tell a pass. If the two numbers are the same. The other is if the two numbers are both below 3.5. Since it takes 3.5 to be wagerable, if both of these numbers were less than 3.5, that would also be a pass. So let me call this is the webinar class. Leaning toward PS photo site B, and that's enough. Usually I would like you to write more about your personal experience here, some of the things you said, like I really had the strong feeling it was a building, never got a sense of an animal, so, you know, that kind of thing. Because then when you do this enough, you begin to see patterns which can help you. So then I hit submit. And you can see it's a pass. What I wrote is here. And we don't know yet. Oh, okay. So here it didn't tell us. Sometimes if you go, it'll tell you which way you went here. Since it's a pass, this time it didn't give you any indication. However, let me show you the next step, which sends out another email to you. And the next step is the group manager step. So if this looks complicated to you, don't worry about it. This does not involve remote viewers. I try to make it easy for group managers, but it's not quite as easy for them. Okay, so this is what you get when you're done judging. So you're done. Everything went off to the server. As a judge, you've completed your job. But this is a group manager now you see here. The group manager has to make a formal group prediction because it has to go to everybody in the group. So this is now what the group manager does. Goes in, does webinar workshop, and we got a lot of information now. The server does a lot of work, and there are a lot of choices. So again, the group manager does this. So I'm seeing yes, no for the first time. We'll watch. So this is the one I want to choose. That's the one we did today. And here's the pass. This is some internal analytics you don't have to worry about. So we will put in the webinar. We'll predict a pass. And now I should be able to say, okay, yes, no, photo site B would actually be the no. No, wait, I'm sorry. Yeah, photo site B, we're leaning towards no. Let me see if I can, yeah, here it is. So the viewer, the order, when I did the original tasking, as well as here, side one, you see it here? Side one was yes. Since B is always what doesn't happen, here's the yes. What we're predicting is that no, it's going to happen. So let me put that in the notes. Okay, so leaning toward photo side B, which is no. Okay, so that's all we can do now. I put that here. So then I do a submittal. Remember, that's group manager stuff. But what the group manager just did is, and I'll do you next, Terry, is the confidence rankings. I got some information on that, but that went to me. But this goes to everybody. Remember the webinar workshop Google? It's a pass. And what I put here, leaning towards photo side B, which is no. So I gave, in this case, everybody. I don't usually, actually, if it's a pass, I don't really do anything because I don't think you should wager or do anything. I did it here just as an example, frankly. Okay, any questions on that? Let's go look at Terry, and then I want to get into more on the wagering. Open. Okay, so here you are, Terry. Let me put that there. Oh, we lost the two pictures, but I think we all remember them well enough. You gave yours a 6.5?
Well, I got some of the biological, or quite a bit of the biological,
No.
and only a little bit of man-made.
See that until too late. That might have put us on side B. Okay.
I have problems scanning it in. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's okay. No, that's okay. Anyway, this agrees with the leaning toward side B, and so in fact, though, we'll talk about that. In terms of personal, if this was the total score of personal, now this is the kind where you wager wisely according to what we're about to talk about. So yeah, don't worry about not scanning. Let's just see if I agree with you. Natural, outdoor. So they're both outdoor. Unusual space, separation, biological. Now that's certainly good. Beat-like, over distance, motion, energy, yep. Water, yep. Biological, yep. Hair, stretched out. Yeah, that's good. The subconscious is funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
Taut, I don't know about that. Space, organism, yes. Man-made, the other one. Man-made, the other one. Space, probably the other one, actually. Curve, maybe both. Closure onto it, large door. Okay, so why did you give it a strong 6.5?
What did I give what?
You gave photosite B a 6.5. I'd like to hear your logic. Did stuff go on other than what you put down here?
Yeah, as soon as before I started the session, I felt very strongly a landscape and something was pulling to the right. Very, very strong. And so that alligator
So that's here.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's good here, but there's also, you see, and this is maybe the difference between independent judges and self-judging. And all of you should understand a little bit about that because we're doing self-judging, which I prefer for just reasons like this, the comments that people make about how strong, and I noticed you did underline it here, so maybe that would have been assigned to the judge. But, you know, without that, I would probably give this something lower. I don't see, you know, biological is not, in my mind, at least, high enough to be called analytical overlay.
Right. But number 3, the alarm or the pulse beat like this is like a heartbeat. This is like a heartbeat, so that tells me it's a biological.
Yeah, and alive, and you're looking at it and all that. Anyway, I'm giving you my feedback. If this had been a 5, my reaction would be just as good in the sense of that I consider a 5 to be almost the ideal transcript, frankly.
Oh,
The analytical part didn't get in at all. But I only say that not even believing it 100% because I've seen too many times when the analytical has been right on and supported by the rest of the session. So everybody's a little bit different. But don't downplay 5s. 5s are very strong. I consider them very strong.
okay.
And period. So that's my personal judgment.
Mm-hmm.
So nevertheless, that was a very good session, and the viewers in charge, I probably would have given that something more like a 5.5,
Okay.
which actually is only off by 1 from what you gave. So,
All right.
again, you're learning about different judges. That's why we talk like this, as you hopefully learn. Okay, let's now go back to the presentation. Okay, so we've just finished doing this. Well done. Now, let's get into wagering. There are lots and lots of sites out there, and I do not recommend anything. You have to take full responsibility for anything you do in wagering. You have to take full responsibility for everything you do in wagering. Okay, that's probably one of the most important rules. And that includes going to a site. Now, I'm telling you the sites, 2 of them, I actually even have more, that I have used, and I'm happy with these 2. But that's not a recommendation. That's just been my personal experience with them. That doesn't mean if you go on the internet and look up, there'll probably be somebody who is very unhappy with them. Okay. One is called 5 Dimes, 5dimes.eu, and the other one is called bookmaker.eu. So that's how you would go about actually doing a wager. Now notice in our example here, we passed, but I think let's use this as an opportunity to show you what you would do if you were to wager. And I think, yes, here it is. I had gone to my 5 Dimes site. You saw a picture of that. That was when I took a picture of it. So let's just log in. Now, they're all a little bit different, but they all do the same thing. And they all are very, very good at customer support. Because guess what? They want you to wager. They, from their perspective, are like Las Vegas. The more people they can get to wager, the more money they'll make because they're making money at this. It's going to be very interesting to see how they respond as more and more of us precoggers start making money. But, they protect themselves. They have maximums and things like that. Okay, so I'm about to log in to one example, all of which are similar. So let me make this bigger. So this is 5 Dimes, and you can see all the options that you have in addition to the sports book. I mean, they do lots and lots of stuff here. In fact, I didn't use them. I used the other side for roulette, but they're games here, and they probably let you gamble roulette, and they're do much more with lotteries than some of the other sites, and they also do a lot with futures, which is why I am doing them. The other site did not do the tennis futures, which I'll show you in a minute. But first, I want you to understand how the more normal ones go, like football, NFL. we're going to be doing, two of the groups are doing Super Bowl predictions. So let's say I wanted to make a wager on a Super Bowl prediction, okay? Just to show you how this works before I do the future ones. So you just highlight it. You know, what could be easier than that? You do continue. And this is the first time I've seen this. It looks like there are a million possible wagers, and I don't even know. Let me see. I'm looking at this. I don't know what this other stuff is here. This must be, oh, I see. They're giving you points here. Okay. Usually, you know, Super Bowl, as you know, is wild. It's probably the biggest watched sports event, certainly. No, well, in the U.S., I know it's not in the world. Soccer is more popular worldwide. Anyway, here's the first line. Let's just look at this first top line now, because it's giving you the opportunity to take, this is what's called the favorite underdog. New England Patriots are the favorite. Okay, that's what this -3 tells me. So if you wanted them and to give up 3 points, you could do that. This are the team. You could take the Patriots, but the -155 means you would have, since they're the favorite, that's sort of what the minus implies, believe it or not. The dash, let's maybe call it a dash. If you were to put up $100, you, no, if you were to put up $155, you would get your 155 back plus 100. So that's the favorite. You're not even getting, so it's not even money, right? You're only making $100, but risking 155. On the other hand, if you go with the Falcons, you put up 100 and you get your 100 back plus 135. So that shows that they're the underdog. And you can wager on the underdog by, they can lose, but they have to lose by more than 3 points. Now, the bet which we do most often is the over-under bet. And this bet are 50-50 bets, because this -110 says no matter which way you go, and they're prepared to take your money either way, you put up $110, you'll get 100 back. So that's the best they do in terms of getting even. Notice here, they took 155 back. So this is the over-under. They call it total points, because they'll give a line. And if you were to go here, you get to see the line. And then here they're doing individual team total points, where you could wager over-under on this team scoring 30.5 as opposed to the total points. Lots of different possible wagers to make. Let me just go to the next step with what would be a classical one. So notice this all scales. So if I put in this one, $10, and some of the others you have to go through another step to put the money. But if I wanted to wager $10 here, I would put the 10 here and then click continue. So they make it as user-friendly as they can. And here they want me to put in a new password, but they tell you very specifically that I'm risking 11 to win 10. Okay? And you can go back, you can click continue, you can do whatever you want. But if I were to click this, I would indeed have put in a wager, which I'm not going to do. But that would end it. As soon as you did it here, you put in your password, you'd be done. So that's how you would place a wager. Let me go back and just show you. Wow, I don't want to go back that far. Let's see. Okay. I just thought it would be worthwhile to show the tennis is here, and then they have things they call futures. So if there was a match going now, you could wager on it, and the wagers are just amazing, the number of wagers they have. They just go on and on. But this was the futures, but I wanted to do something in the future, and this is where the Roger Federer was at plus 2,000, which again, you put up 100 and you'd actually get $2,000. They would give you that. They do have maxes, not shown on this page. The other ones, they show you right on the page what the maximum would be. Okay, so in terms of how you do the sports betting, that's how you do it. Now, I'm also going to talk about financials, but right now, just because most people are doing the sports betting, I wanted to get into a little bit more about this. Money can be part of a healthy, wealthy, healthy wealth. You can be a wealthy person, and wealth includes all kinds of other things besides the money. Obviously, if you're not physically healthy, the money isn't going to do you any good. You've got to feel good about yourself. The word wealth originally comes from the word weal, which included sharing your resources, which includes money, with the local community. It goes back so far where that's all they had. So with society. Now, ARV, this is an approach, I believe, where we can, in fact, get wealthy. And some people are, I believe, on their way. But notice there's a big if here. And this is so important in terms of the wagering discussion that we're now having and that this class is focused on. What we can do in precognition is find out whether or not you do have a reliable hit rate. That's why we keep statistics. You know, some people do it because they think they have a really good feeling about the different teams, and they think they can do better than the bookmakers. It used to be called the bookies, right? The bookie's willing to take a wager on either side. So he feels comfortable that he understands them, and it's a 50-50 bet. Then he takes his little, $10 where you put up 110 and you only get back 100. That's called a vig, and he makes all his money on that. Okay, but you think you can do better than that. That's one way to do it. And you should be keeping records if you use that approach also to see whether or not you're making money. Well, in precognition, we actually, by doing it, know based on our hit rate how good we are. And so you get up to high enough hit rates, and you can say, you know what? I've got an edge over chance, which is using my precognitive abilities. I'm using the fact I know precognition and retrocausality is real, and I'm going to maybe get rich, but slowly. Since I know this is real, I don't have to do anything that unusual on any wager. I'm in this for the long term because precognition is real for the long term, so let's not rush anything. And it turns out I happen to believe this is very important because it sets the mindset which makes precognition even better because it acknowledges that this is something that you're just going to kind of integrate into your life. So my perspective on that and wagering is for me very important. And I just hope you'll take that in because it's an important part of wagering wisely. You wager wisely by first verifying that you've got a reliable edge over chance. And then, now that I know that, I take that in, I say, yep, I can do this, and I'm just going to do it slowly and integrate it into my life and slowly accumulate money. That I just these two, I say them and people repeat them, but they're to be gotten deep in the gut because they, I believe, also affect how well your precognition is done when you plan on wagering. Okay, I made this big as well because now we're getting down to the money. I believe noise in precognition, stress in precognition, all of these are the things which cause us to get our misses. That's a general statement. Why aren't we either getting passes, where we get garbage, we're just not on, but why do we get these strong misses? That's the big question in precognition. Sure, by chance, yes, there's some chance aspect that you'll get a good match, but there seems to be more than that going on. Getting rid of noise, doing everything you can at every step to get rid of noise is got to be the best strategy. Wagering is part of this. All of this stuff, as you well know, is entangled. I mean, hell, I'm causing my remote viewing session to give me information from my feedback session that shows that entanglement. Well, don't you think your wagering might be entangled as well? I believe that's the right point of view to take, that this is the fourth, not in time, but let's just say another step in the precognitive reality, that when you are making a prediction, that the analysis, that the action people take on it, that the wagering, all of that goes on there is entangled with the other three steps. So having said that, and I certainly believe everything is entangled together, this idea of starting with a bankroll, you have a number in your mind, and in the sports thing, you put it all up. You should put it in. When you start a sports account, you can start with a certain amount of money, and then take the point of view that if I lose all of this, it's okay. I still had fun. I still learned something. I certainly don't think it's going to happen. It's a real low probability, but there's literally no additional stress involved. So that's, I believe, a very important piece of advice. And guess what? Everybody's bankroll is going to be different. We're all in different stages in our lives, but you need to come up with kind of a number that says, worst case scenario, I'll be okay. Now, money. You've got your bankroll. I have come, now this is personal. Wagering ultimately becomes very personal. And so what I'm telling you, and I'm going to give you some more general facts, but what I'm telling you is that I believe with that no stress bankroll, a 10% wager, let's see, I don't like the way I said it here. Okay, 10% wager versus hit rate. Okay, well, this is factual, but let me start by telling you that the idea of just wagering 10% of whatever your bankroll is a good strategy if your hit rate is up to about 60%. 55% is what the people who have done analytical work on this, okay, and as I said, I'm now clearly at a place where I believe you should do about 10% wagering if you think you're at about a 60% hit rate. The people who have done the analytics on this have said without commissions, the actual optimum way of doing this, okay, they've used game theory and things like that, and there's something called the Kelly wagering system. They would say even if you were only 55%, if you had a 5% edge, you should do 10% wagering, but that's without commission. And they say, hey, you get up to 70%, you should be wagering 40%. But that is so risky because even at 70%, you have the chance of having 2 or 3 hits, 2 or 3 misses in a row, and you would, lose a major fraction. And that even happens at 20%. That's why I recommend 10%. But let's go one step further, and let's see what that would mean even at 10% for the long term. Again, we're only into this for the long term. If you would invest consistently at 10% and you indeed achieve 60% for 240 trials, and you're, here I call them speculative funds, good, I like that, your bankroll was $1,000, you would make almost 37, you would have $37,000 at the end. This is what your bankroll would be worth. So you made roughly 36 times your money. So that's, to do that, make 36 times your original investment over a year with a 60% hit rate. Why not be patient, right? And then you could just continue to let that grow if you wanted to. So that's the point is with edges of even 10% over chance, investing 10%, the potential is really large. The story is not quite as simple because there is always commission in one form or another. So here, let's just look at these graphs, which are for the 10% wagering approach, and the 240 wagerable predictions, so what you might do aggressively in a year. And this includes commission now at 2 different levels. So the green is the numbers we were looking at before. So a hit rate of 60% gave us 36,000, right? So that's the blue, no commission, right? You see here. So this is the dollars starting with 1,000 with a 0.6%, a 60% hit rate. We're up here at about 36,000. This is a logarithmic scale. Notice 70%, and we have some people who are here. This is why I have said I'm hoping APP can make millionaires out of lots and lots of people. Because if we can get 70% for a year, you're talking numbers like that. But that's without commission. But with commission, a 5% commission, and a 5% commission is actually what the sports betting turns out to be, because if you place 2 bets at 110 each, you have to put up $220. And what did you get back? You got back 100. So 100 out of 220 isn't the No, you got back, I'm sorry, you got back 205 because you got back, you won 100. Oh, okay, I guess I should go through this now since I started. I probably shouldn't have even started it. But bear with me, right? The typical wager that they is $100 wager. I'm saying if you go both ways, this is the way you figure out the odds, is you do what the nominal wager would be on both sides. So you do 100 on each side. So you've wagered you wager 110 on both sides. So you're wagering $220, right? Because you're wagering $220. One wins, so you get back only 100 from the 110, plus your 110, so you're getting 210 back. So you got 210 by investing 220. So their edge is only $10 out of $220. So that's where the 5% comes from. But there are some circumstances where the odds are different, and if you wager options poorly, sometimes it can be as bad as 10%. So you have to watch this. And that's the point of this in terms of wagering. You have to take into account the commissions, the costs, the fees, because they make a big difference. At 60%, they actually bring you from 36,000 down to maybe 2,000, a relatively low, what did I do here? Relatively low number. So you just need to watch it. Notice you still made money, and hey, there's nothing wrong with doubling your money in a year. Try to do that with a regular investment. But when you see, and this you've got to constantly be watching this for the greed aspect, when you see some of these big numbers, you just have to really understand them intellectually, not get too attached to them deep down or emotionally. While they're possible, you just don't want to get attached to them. You want to stay neutral and do it. But the numbers are there. Commissions are a very important part of it. Even at 70%, you get up to over 100,000, a few 100,000 with a 10%. And you can get to the million with the red curve. Okay, so 10% is what I recommend. But then, look, also you want to be reasonable. If, like we just did, let's say you didn't pass, but you were leaning, don't do 10%, do 5% on a wager if you don't feel it's really good, or don't wager at all. If you feel it's good, I never anymore go above 15%. But if I really feel good about it, especially in a group where several people are all doing good transcripts in the same direction, I'll go as high as 15%. Don't go to 20%. I found 20%, you just lose too fast. And for me, I'm not comfortable at 20% psychologically. And that's key. You have to find what you're comfortable at psychologically to get rid of the noise. So for me, I never go over 15%, and I often go under 10%. Okay. So let's go to the next one now. So that was focused mostly from the perspective of sports betting. It turns out, and that's what I want to show you, and it takes people a while to really get this, is that financial betting, wagering, I even like to call it investing now, because when you have an edge over chance, that's what you're doing, is exactly the same if you use limits and stops in the way I'm about to show you. So first, all financial wagering that I'm considering now as being something that we, in fact, can can make a specific wager on has price movements. There are a chart just like this that goes up and down. This happens to be a daily chart on a Forex combination. But if I took off the labels and even the time scale, this could be Google, this could be IBM, this could be the price of gold or silver or platinum or whatever. It could be any financial instrument, bonds, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, they all look like this. And they all tend to look like this if you talk about a week, a month, even a day. Each one of these arrows is a period of time. This one happens to be different days. But if I did a chart that was over 1 day, this might be 5 minutes. And in a 5-minute period, a chart could look just like this. So the point is they go up and they go down. Now, here is how we do our wagering. Okay, this is just different time scales of the same thing. This is how we do our wagering. We come in at a specific time, and let's use this one, and say on a specific time on a specific day. In fact, we use 8 o'clock in the morning. So let's look at this chart. We would get in at 8 o'clock in the morning, either up or down. In other words, the prediction would be that the market is going to move up or down. Now, that prediction was made in time way back here. We then put in and did the judging, okay, confidence rankings and judging. And let's say, in this case, we said down. We would then sell whatever this financial was, and then we need to put a stop in. How far do you make those stops? Well, we look at historical data and come up with that amount that's going to be hit about 80 to 90% of the time. In other words, we want to have limits and stops which occur within 24 hours. So we want this to be, similar to a sporting event most of the time. This is what the groups are doing, so we can get feedback. We love feedback. So we would put in an order to either buy or sell with a stop or a limit. Now, if we sell, we'd sell here and we'd want to buy down here and we make money. But what happens if we're wrong? If you're wrong, you can put a stop up here, which would get you out with a loss, and we choose that to be the same amount as the limit. So we've set this up very purposefully so that what we win is the same as what we lose. And that makes this essentially a 50-50 proposition, just like in sports, but here there's real commission. In sports, they get that $10 VIG. Okay, now let me just say it again one more time. It turns out in the Forex market, a reasonable stop and limit range from where you buy was 40 pips. A pip is sort of like a point in a stock. But it's sort of the smallest kind of move you can do. In a stock, they call it a tick. So it's not really a point. It's kind of the smallest move. So anyway, 40 of those made sense for the Forex we were trading. And notice this is just price and time. So at 8 o'clock in the morning, in this example, let's say it was a buy. So if we wanted to buy this financial instrument, then we want to sell it up for a profit. So we put in a sell limit order for 40 pips. But then we have to put in the stop, which gets us out of the loss. In this case, we put that down at 40 pips. It's as simple as that. The other part of this is most of the, in fact, I would say all of the people who are, the organizations that support Forex trading, and your stockbroker may not, but this works for stocks as well, most of them will allow you to put in what's called one order cancels the other. Because if I go out and I get this limit order and I made my money, I'm a happy camper. What if after that in time, the market goes down? I don't want to be in a sell position. So as a person who is wagering, investing, when you put this in, you must always put it in, unless you want to watch it, and I certainly don't. So any order I put in is one cancels other, O-C-O, some call it OCA, one cancels another, so that as soon as one goes off, I'm done. Now there's one other thing which can happen, and that is you stay within this range. So you do need to get out at a specified time, and that's why we use 24 hours, 10 minutes less than 24 hours. So that's our equivalent strategy for any financial instrument. We've used others, and from time to time, especially when we do longer term trades, we'll use others. But this is the baseline because it makes it very similar to sports. And then this is just a sell example. And then the other example is, let's say we have a pass as the prediction, then we just watch things, just like you would watch the sports game. We would just simply note the opening at 8 a.m. and then watch whether it went up 40 pips first, because remember, the first one of these that happens is what gets executed, and then the other is canceled. Okay, let me just see if I missed any questions. Yeah, commissions, you do have to have an account. Now, one of the things you may want to do is, one of the reasons we do Forex and other commodities, what are called futures, is those have high leverage values, so you can make 10% of your bankroll in a day. If you would trade, say, the stock directly, you can't make 10% in a day. Typical stocks will move within like 1% would be considered a pretty good move for a particular stock on an average day, but not 10%. 10%, makes the news. So you have to open up an account, and but nevertheless, the commission schedules and all that would be worthwhile. A option account is a possibility. Stock options have that kind of leverage, as well as the Forex markets and the option. They have options on futures, and there's all kinds of instruments you can use. We've actually, right now, tend to stick with the Forex market just because it's quite convenient and volatile, and it works quite well. Now, sort of closing up all of this, which fits with everything, the ARV, precognition, and wagering, is this whole idea about what Scientific American, and it is interesting, science is paying more and more attention now to the mind. They're not anywhere close to predicting, to understanding precognition at the level that science will say, yeah, precognition is even real, but they are looking at the mind and the unconscious mind, which I, of course, call the subconscious mind, or the higher mind, or whatever. I mean, I think if you think about it very shortly, you would agree with this, how unconscious thought and perception affect our every waking moment. Unconscious impulses and desires impel what we think and do in ways Freud never dreamt. And that is certainly true. There's just so much going on underneath, and that is what both permits precognition, but also in each of us, I think, tends to limit it. It's mostly getting down into that area that is going to allow each of us to just get better and better, because it's the stuff below is where all the noise is. Now, these things, which now I'm, in my opinion, are so important down here that then bubble up, are your beliefs, are your ideas about things that you, in fact, believe are good or bad, say, and your emotions. They start down here. Sometimes they call them feelings, and then they come up here as emotions, or emotions and feelings. But those two things are intimately connected, and they're a different sort of thing, but they start down here. And of course, you know, I love this statement because it's really so true, and it's true of us who are working this field and are open to these precognition and other psi realities. We actually have no idea of how conscious experience arises from the blob of matter that weighs 3 pounds. It's really still very such a mystery. There's just no good, you have to understand there's that kind of uncertainty is there. In fact, I think it's probably related to the quantum mechanical uncertainty principle. And we have to kind of live with that. There is, I think, a certain amount of base noise that we just have to learn how to comfortably live with. And again, that's at all levels of precognition, including the wagering. But you don't want to be in a spot where, you know, you keep getting these really strong negative emotions because you lost one lousy wager, 2 lousy wagers in a row. That's where the work is to feel good down here. Now, precognition does seem to come from outside the physical space and time, and like outside of what you normally consider the you, the ego you. And you know what? Here I said perhaps conceptually it comes from fringes of your subconscious, your subconscious. Somehow we want to get attached to something that is like ours, but even when we say that, the word fringes opens up what I think is the right viewpoint, which is there's something bigger than that. I don't care how big you can think and feel. There's something bigger than that. And all the stuff we're talking about, it's so marvelous because that's where it's coming from. It's coming from places that we're just able to explore, which is so marvelous that we can even have a concept of it. I don't think an ant has a concept of something as big as we have a sense of here. And that's where the information is coming from. But then to get closer to you, another perspective, rather than it coming from, all that is, the universe of collective consciousness, which is the way I think of this most fundamentally, is that all that is out there. The universe of collective consciousness is out there. And you've used your natural precognitive skill to get that information. Yeah, okay, that's good. But you can get a little bit more personal, because in the future, not only are you going to know the short-term outcome of the particular prediction that you're making, you're going to learn from that. And in the longer term, years from now, you're going to be a lot wiser about this. You're going to be feeling a lot good about it. You're going to feel a lot more loving towards it because that's what works. You know, we've had all these other talks on syntropy, where he directly brings in love and the emotions, and positive love and emotions helps. Well, you know what? I think the connection between this universe of collective consciousness and the fringes of your subconscious is connected with this you in the future. Your information, to maybe a great extent, is actually coming from you in the future when you have the feedback session, as guided by a wiser, loving you. I like that image. Each of us has to come up with a way that this feels right. Okay. Hopefully you get this, and then that then leads very nicely to what I think is a whole mindset about putting all this together in your life, healthy, wealthy, and wise. Okay, I'm finished with any of the formal stuff I had. Please ask questions, comments. Let me look at the chat bar. Can you show the chart of the tennis player again? Yep. Let me just see what else. If you determine for your AV session that a player will not win, go through the list of players and each player and the result of the game. Sure. But the thing you have to remember is it's none of the predictions 100%. I mean, that sounds like the perfect strategy if you were 100%. That you say, no, for sure this player will win. So yeah, you can do that, but every time you do multiple predictions, the prediction, the probability of them all being right goes down. So yeah, that's why I'm not a big fan of parlays. But yeah, you can do that, and if you feel really comfortable with one, that might make sense. Okay, so let's go back to the tennis player. Probably not going to be here. Oh yeah, there it is. Okay, so there's the tennis player, and what do you want to do with that? You have a question with that, Jonathan? Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, but that would be right. Instead of going here, you can do all kinds of strategies. In fact, when you get up to these being so high, and I did this with the NBA, I took two of them and said, would either of those two win? Planning on, if the answer was yes, betting on both of them. Because notice, I could wager $200 here. I keep using the $100 one, but not many of us are wagering at the $100 level. But I could do both of these and put up $200, and if only this one won, I would get $100 back plus $2,000. I'd be a happy camper with that, with only a $200 investment. So there are other kinds of yes/no questions you can ask. I mean, you can even go, will any of these long shots win? That could be a question, and if the answer is yes, you could wager on all of them. I mean, ARV is really quite flexible with yes/no questions. Okay, other questions, comments? Okay, very good. I think I'm, well, I say one other thing to those of you who are experienced. I think these classes are valuable both for the people who I've just putting them together and taking stuff from other places and talking with you helps clarify things for me. But I want to begin soon. Not next week, because next week we'll actually be able to do a feedback, and I want to do the first one of those. But I'd like to suggest that other people now start giving classes, so we can still maybe keep having them every Wednesday. So the other choice is to have them less frequently. But I just like to open your guys' minds up to giving classes on something you feel competent to teach. And I'd like to just support that, as APPI. So let me know if there's some interest in that. I know, John, you showed some interest in that. And, start putting something together. Okay. Thank you all for coming. And with that, if I can find it, I will end this session now.